When a person struggles with inappropriate thoughts, it is very easy to think that something is wrong with them or that they are spiritually broken. But this is one of the greatest misunderstandings. The presence of unwanted thoughts is not a sign of spiritual failure. It is a sign that the heart is alive enough to notice what is wrong. A dead heart feels nothing, but a heart that reacts, resists, and feels discomfort is a heart that still values its connection with Allah. This alone shows that your struggle is meaningful and seen by the one who created you. Every believer, no matter how strong, faces moments when the mind becomes a battlefield. Shaytan's whispers aim to confuse you into believing that you have already failed simply because a thought entered your mind. Yet Allah, who is most merciful, never judges you for the arrival of a thought. He only judges you for what you choose to entertain. The very fact that you feel disturbed by such thoughts is a sign of faith, not weakness, because it shows you want to protect your purity. There are many people who experience these internal challenges silently, often thinking that no one else goes through such struggles. But the truth is that even the most righteous individuals face temptations and thoughts they do not want. The difference is not that they never face them, but that they do not surrender to them. They fight back, they resist, and they remind themselves that their honor is more valuable than a momentary desire. You are doing the same every time you push your thoughts toward purity. Your effort to reject these thoughts, even if they return again and again, is recorded by the angels as a sincere struggle. Every moment you try to shift your focus towards something good becomes a moment of worship. This is why you should never feel ashamed for simply experiencing these thoughts. What matters is the action you take afterward, the direction in which you turn your heart, and the determination you show to stay firm on the right path. Sometimes these thoughts come at moments when you least expect them, and you may feel frustrated or disappointed in yourself. But remind yourself gently that even this frustration is a sign of your love for Allah and your desire to stay clean internally. The believer who feels pain after a sinful thought is far higher in rank than the one who feels no concern at all. Allah sees the pain, the resistance, and the sincerity behind your struggle. When you reject a thought, even if it only lasts a few seconds before returning, those few seconds are moments in which your heart is victorious. They are moments in which you prove to yourself and to your Lord that you want what is pure more than what is temporary. These small victories accumulate, strengthening your spiritual muscles and teaching you that you are not helpless. With every attempt, your resilience grows stronger. The beautiful thing about Allah's mercy is that He rewards you even for intentions. When you intend to push away harmful thoughts, even before your mind fully shifts, Allah has already written for you the reward of striving. That means that the very beginning of your effort is honored, cherished, and valued by Him. This should fill you with hope, because it means you are never fighting alone, and you are never fighting without reward. Often people assume that purity belongs to those who never struggle, but in reality, purity belongs to those who continue fighting despite their struggles. The one who keeps trying is far more beloved to Allah than the one who feels no internal battle at all. Your resistance is a form of worship, your discomfort is a sign of faith, and your effort is a reflection of your sincerity. These thoughts do not define you. Your reaction to them is what defines your spiritual strength. Every time you experience a harmful thought and immediately turn your mind toward what pleases Allah, you rise higher in His sight. These moments transform into opportunities for spiritual growth, and the more you resist, the more your heart learns discipline. It may take time, it may take countless attempts, but each attempt shapes you into someone stronger, wiser, and closer to Allah than before. You must remind yourself often that this internal battle is not a sign of your spiritual weakness, but a sign of your spiritual potential. Allah would not allow you to face a struggle unless He knew you had the strength to overcome it and grow through it. Your effort to fight for your purity is a sign that your heart is alive, your faith is active, and your soul is on a journey toward becoming its best version. When a harmful thought enters the mind, it often feels sudden, intrusive, and overwhelming. But the true strength of a believer lies in knowing how to respond. The mind cannot remain empty, it will always hold something. If you do not actively fill it with what is beneficial, it will naturally drift toward what is harmful. This is why the first step toward purity is not eliminating thoughts, but replacing them with something meaningful, uplifting, and spiritually nourishing. The shift begins from within, by consciously choosing what you allow to stay in your mental space. When you focus on Dhikr, Qur'an, and purposeful actions, they create light inside the heart that naturally pushes darkness out. You may still feel the arrival of inappropriate thoughts, but their impact weakens because your heart is occupied with something better. Dhikr especially acts as a shield. Every time you say Subhanallah, Alhamdulillah, or La ilaha illallah, you are not simply moving your tongue, you are strengthening your heart and creating a mental environment where sinful thoughts struggle to survive. Replacing thoughts is not always instant. Sometimes it requires effort and repetition. The mind often returns to familiar patterns, especially if those patterns have been fed for years. But every time you redirect your focus, even if it takes multiple attempts, you are training your brain toward purity. Just like a muscle strengthens with repeated exercise, the mind becomes disciplined through repeated redirection. You may not see the change immediately, but internally you are already becoming stronger. One of the most powerful replacements is Qur'anic reflection. When you take a verse and think deeply about its meaning, it occupies the mind in a way that leaves little space for harmful thoughts. The Qur'an is not just a book of guidance, it is a purifier of the heart and mind. A single verse repeated with sincerity can erase 1,000 whispers. It fills the soul with clarity, peace, and purpose, shifting your attention from desire to devotion. Another vital element in replacing harmful thoughts is having meaningful goals. A mind that is busy with purpose has no room for negativity. When you wake up with a mission, learning something new, improving a skill, serving others, strengthening your worship, your thoughts automatically align with your intentions. Purpose gives your mind direction, and direction makes it easier to resist distractions. When you know what you are striving for, it becomes easier to identify what does not belong in your journey. Surrounding yourself with the right environment also plays a major role in what fills your mind. If your surroundings feed your desires, your thoughts will follow that energy. But if your surroundings feed your faith, your thoughts naturally elevate. Your company, your conversations, your phone content, your daily habits, they all contribute to the quality of your thoughts. Replacing harmful thoughts becomes easier when you place yourself in an environment that supports purity. Even busying your hands with productive activity can shift your mental focus. Many harmful thoughts arise during moments of idleness. When the body is not engaged, the mind wanders. Simple actions like organizing your space, exercising, reading, or working on a task can redirect the mind instantly. Productivity creates structure, and structure helps guard the mind from drifting toward what is unhealthy. Dhikr and purposeful activity together create a powerful combination. While your hands are busy with work, your heart can remain busy with remembrance. This dual engagement leaves almost no space for unhealthy thoughts to settle. You begin to live with awareness where your inner world supports your outer actions and your outer actions reinforce your inner purity. This harmony is what slowly transforms your mind. Over time, as you continue replacing harmful thoughts with beneficial ones, you begin to notice subtle changes. What once felt tempting no longer feels appealing. What once felt overwhelming becomes manageable. What once occupied your mind begins to fade away. The heart becomes lighter, the mind becomes clearer, and your connection with Allah becomes stronger. This transformation does not happen overnight, but every small effort adds to the overall change. Replacing harmful thoughts is not about suppressing them, but about giving your mind something better to hold. When you choose remembrance, purpose, Qur'an, and productivity, your thoughts naturally align with purity. The mind learns what to value, the heart learns what to love, and your inner world becomes a place where negativity cannot survive. Shaytan's whispers often feel powerful because they arrive at moments when a person is vulnerable, tired, or alone, but their strength is only an illusion. A whisper is nothing more than a suggestion, and a suggestion only becomes dangerous when it is entertained. The beauty of the human mind is that it has the ability to observe a thought without accepting it. This means that you can recognize a whisper without allowing it to settle in your heart. Knowing that you have this control is the first step in breaking the power of unwanted thoughts. Many people mistakenly believe that a sinful thought entering their mind is equal to committing a sin, but Allah's mercy is far greater than this. He knows the difference between what you choose and what merely passes through your mind. A whisper is not a sin, it is a test. Your reaction to it is what determines your strength. When you decide not to act on a harmful thought, you are already proving to yourself and to Allah that you are stronger than the whisper. This alone shows that the thought has no real power unless you give it space. The moment you understand that Shaytan cannot force you to do anything, an incredible peace settles within. His role is limited to whispering, decorating false desires, and making temporary pleasures seem attractive. But he cannot hold your hand, he cannot push you, and he cannot control your will. This realization frees you from the guilt that often traps people in a cycle of shame. You begin to recognize that you are responsible for your actions, not for the suggestions that pass through your mind. Every time a harmful thought enters your mind and you consciously reject it, you strengthen your spiritual identity. You become more aware of your own discipline, more in control of your inner world, and more confident in your ability to protect your purity. These small moments of control accumulate, adding layers of strength to your heart. They remind you that purity is not about never facing temptation, but about consistently choosing the better path when it appears. The more you resist, the more Shaytan realizes that his whispers have little effect on you. This often makes him increase his attempts, but with each failed attempt, he becomes weaker in your life. He wants you to believe that resisting is exhausting, that the thoughts will never go away, or that you are fighting a losing battle. But the truth is that your persistence is what breaks his influence. He tries to make you doubt your progress, but your effort is what pushes him away. You also begin to notice that harmful thoughts often come in repetitive patterns, and once you recognize the pattern, it becomes easier to interrupt it. You start to differentiate between your own thoughts and the whispers that do not belong to you. This awareness itself is a form of spiritual strength, because it means you are no longer reacting blindly. You respond consciously, with intention, knowing exactly what needs to be rejected. As you continue resisting, you also learn that thoughts lose their power when they are not fed. A thought that is ignored becomes weak, and a weak thought eventually fades. Shaytan relies on your reaction to strengthen his whisper. When you refuse to respond emotionally or dwell on the thought, it dies before it can take root. This realization empowers you to stay calm even when the mind is tested, because you know you are in control of what you allow to stay. Your heart also becomes more sensitive over time. What once felt tempting becomes unappealing, and what once felt difficult to resist becomes easier. This is because Allah places light in the heart of the one who strives. That light does not remove whispers entirely, but it makes them easier to defeat. You begin to feel a natural sense of discomfort when harmful thoughts arise, and that discomfort pushes you toward purity without much effort. This is a sign that Allah is helping you in your struggle. The more you fight these thoughts, the more you realize that your willpower is deeply connected to your faith. Every moment of resistance becomes an act of worship, and every act of worship strengthens your willpower. You start to feel a growing confidence that you can control your impulses, your focus, and your inner world. This confidence is not arrogance. It is a sign that your heart is starting to value purity more than desire. Over time, you understand that Shaytan's whispers are only as powerful as the attention you give them. You cannot prevent them from arriving, but you can decide how you respond. And every moment you choose not to entertain them, you reclaim a part of your heart, your dignity, and your spiritual strength. Whenever a harmful or inappropriate thought enters your mind, the first defense is to stop it before it settles, because thoughts grow stronger when they are allowed to linger. Changing your posture in that very moment interrupts the flow of the thought and blocks Shaytan's attempt to deepen it. If you are sitting, stand up. If you are lying down, sit. If you are alone, step into another room. This physical movement sends a signal to your brain that you are taking control, and it immediately weakens the influence of the thought that tried to take hold. Saying A'udhu billahi min ash-shaytan irajim at the first sign of a harmful thought is not just a phrase, it is a declaration of protection. These words create a spiritual barrier, reminding your heart that Allah is near and that you are not facing this temptation alone. Every time you say them sincerely, you are calling upon the one who can remove the whisper completely. The light of Allah's remembrance is something Shaytan cannot stand, and the moment you remember Allah, he retreats because he cannot coexist with a heart that is awakened. Replacing the thought with something pure is essential. A harmful thought cannot simply be removed. It has to be replaced with Dhikr, with Qur'an, with a goal, or with a positive action. The mind needs a new direction, something to focus on so that the old thought loses power. Reciting a verse, repeating a short supplication, or even reminding yourself of your purpose shifts your mental state. When your heart is busy with something meaningful, it becomes harder for the whisper to survive. Sometimes the best way to change a thought is to change your environment. Leaving the room, stepping outside, or even turning your face in another direction can reset the mind. Shaytan often targets moments of stillness or emptiness, and by simply shifting your environment, you disrupt his attempts. Even fresh air or a brighter light can awaken your senses enough to help you break the influence of an oncoming desire. The smallest physical change can create the biggest internal shift. Your surroundings are also a reflection of the thoughts that enter your mind. If your environment contains triggers certain devices, certain content, certain people, it becomes easier for harmful thoughts to appear and harder to remove them. When you choose to clean your surroundings, limit access to temptations, and create a space that supports purity, you give your mind the conditions it needs to stay strong. Purity of environment leads to purity of thought, and purity of thought leads to purity of heart. Dhikr is one of the most powerful replacements because it redirects your focus to the one who created your heart. When a harmful thought appears, repeating La ilaha illallah or astaghfirullah creates a rhythm in your mind that pushes away negativity. This repetition strengthens discipline without forcing you to struggle with the thought directly. Instead of fighting the thought, you are feeding your heart with something far better, and the heart naturally chooses what benefits it. Quranic remembrance also has a deep cleansing effect. Even recalling a single verse can reshape your entire state of mind. When you reflect on Allah's words, your heart begins to feel their weight, and that weight pushes away whatever does not belong. The Qur'an has a way of calming the mind, grounding the heart, and reminding you of your higher purpose. In moments when thoughts feel overwhelming, holding onto a verse gives you direction and strength. Movement is another powerful tool for redirecting the mind. Walking, stretching, or even taking a few steps around the room sends new signals to your brain. Physical activity pulls your attention away from the inner thought and into the present moment. Many harmful thoughts lose their power when you are physically active, because the body and mind begin to align with a state of motion rather than a state of temptation. Movement gives you control over your mental focus. Keeping your mind occupied with purposeful activity prevents harmful thoughts from growing. When your schedule is filled with meaningful tasks, commitments, and goals, there is less room for the mind to drift. Idleness is one of the biggest gateways for Shaytan because it gives him the space to whisper freely. A busy mind is a protected mind, and when you fill your day with intention, you naturally protect your heart from unnecessary distraction. Over time, rejecting harmful thoughts before they settle becomes a habit. The mind learns that you refuse to entertain what harms you. The heart becomes trained to seek purity, and the body becomes conditioned to respond immediately. This process forms a new identity within you, one that values spiritual clarity, one that responds quickly to temptation, and one that understands that every moment of resistance is strengthened. In your relationship with Allah, your eyes are gateways to your heart, and whatever you expose them to eventually settles in your mind. When you look at something inappropriate, even for a moment, it plants a seed that grows into a thought, and that thought can eventually grow into a desire. Even if you try to forget it later, the image stays stored in your memory, returning at unexpected times and pulling your heart toward what you once saw. This is why guarding the gaze is one of the most powerful ways to protect your inner purity, because what you prevent from entering your eyes never becomes a battle inside your mind. Every image has an impact whether you feel it immediately or not. Some images ignite instant desire, while others settle quietly and show their effects later. This is why lowering the gaze is not just about avoiding sin, it is about protecting your future thoughts. The eyes are like windows, and if you leave them open for anything to enter, you cannot be surprised when your mind becomes filled with distractions. By simply choosing not to look, you save yourself from countless internal struggles that might take days or weeks to overcome. Guarding the gaze also teaches discipline. When you pull your eyes away from what is tempting, you are training your heart to obey your faith instead of your desires. This small moment of resistance strengthens your will to say no to greater temptations. The discipline you build in these moments spreads into other areas of your life, your habits, your decisions, your relationships, and your worship. A disciplined gaze leads to a disciplined heart, and a disciplined heart leads to a disciplined life. Your ears also play a major role in shaping your thoughts. What you listen to, conversations, music, jokes, videos, and even background noise slowly influences your inner world. Words carry energy, and that energy settles into your mind, shaping what you think about daily. If you constantly hear content that promotes desire, casual sin, or disrespect toward purity, your mind begins to normalize it. But when you expose your ears to reminders, Qur'an, lectures, or calm and uplifting voices, your thoughts rise in purity. Your free time is another factor that affects what grows inside your mind. When you have too much idle time, the heart becomes vulnerable, and Shaytan uses this emptiness as an opportunity to plant harmful ideas. But when your time is filled with purpose, work, worship, learning, or meaningful activity, your mind has less space for negativity. This structure of your day protects you because a focused mind has no room for wandering thoughts that can pull you downward. The content you follow on your phone shapes your inner world more than you realize. One inappropriate post, one suggestive video, or one unnecessary scroll can open the door to thoughts you spend weeks trying to erase. Technology brings blessings, but it also brings temptation directly into your hands. Being selective about what you follow, what you watch, and what you allow into your feed is not just a choice. It is a form of spiritual self-defense. Your device can either uplift your heart or destroy your peace. A pure environment supports a pure mind. When your surroundings are filled with positivity, simplicity, and modesty, your thoughts naturally align with purity. But when your environment is filled with triggers, posters, distractions, inappropriate images, or certain people, your mind struggles to stay clean. Adjusting your surroundings is one of the easiest ways to reduce harmful thoughts, because you remove the sources before they reach your heart. Your friendships also shape your thoughts. The people you interact with influence what you talk about, what you laugh about, and what you consider normal. If your friends regularly discuss inappropriate topics, make light of sinful behavior, or encourage you toward desire, it becomes difficult to maintain purity. But when you surround yourself with people who encourage discipline, modesty, purpose, and spiritual growth, your thoughts naturally elevate. Good company protects the mind without you even noticing. Guarding your senses is not about restriction, it is about freedom. When your eyes, ears, and heart are protected, you feel calmer, lighter, and closer to Allah. You no longer feel trapped by unwanted desires or overwhelmed by thoughts you cannot control. Instead, your mind becomes a place of clarity and peace. Protecting what enters your senses allows your soul to breathe and your heart to remain strong. Over time, the more you guard your gaze, refine your environment, and choose what you expose your mind to, the less space harmful thoughts will have. Your senses become trained to avoid what harms you, your heart becomes trained to reject what distracts you, and your mind becomes trained to focus on what elevates you. The path to purity is built through consistent effort, not sudden perfection, and every time you resist a harmful thought, you are building a foundation that strengthens your heart. Even if the same thought returns 100 times, each moment you choose not to entertain it becomes a mark of sincerity. Your effort is what matters most, because Allah looks at your intention, your struggle, and the direction of your heart. The journey may feel slow, but every step you take toward purity is noticed and recorded, even when no one else sees it. Many people become discouraged when they fall repeatedly, thinking their efforts are pointless, but falling does not erase your progress. What weakens you is giving up. When you stand up again after slipping, you prove that your desire for purity is stronger than your weakness. Your willingness to continue fighting is far more meaningful than the number of times you slipped. Allah honors the one who struggles sincerely, even if their struggle is messy, emotional, and filled with setbacks, because sincerity carries more weight than temporary failure. Every act of resistance is a form of worship that brings you closer to Allah. When you push away a temptation for His sake, you are engaging in a quiet battle that the angels witness and record. These hidden moments of strength are among the most beloved acts in the sight of Allah. Even when you think your effort is small or insignificant, the spiritual impact is far greater than you realize. What looks like a tiny moment of self-control to you may be a moment of immense reward in the unseen world. The process of purification teaches you patience, because change rarely happens instantly. Your heart needs time to heal from what it was exposed to, and your mind needs time to break old patterns and create new ones. Every day you try again, your heart becomes a little stronger, your resistance becomes a little easier, and your thoughts become a little cleaner. This slow transformation is what gives your progress lasting strength, because anything built with patience becomes difficult to destroy. Struggling for purity also teaches you humility. You begin to understand your dependence on Allah and realize that you cannot overcome desires without His help. This realization softens the heart, increases your prayers, and strengthens your connection with your Creator. You begin to turn to Him more often, asking for strength, guidance, and protection. This reliance is a sign of spiritual maturity, because the strongest believers are those who know they cannot succeed without Allah's support. With every attempt you make, you begin to observe your triggers more clearly. You notice what time of day you are most vulnerable, what situations weaken your willpower, and which thoughts tend to appear after certain habits. This awareness becomes a form of wisdom that helps you prevent future struggles. Recognizing your patterns allows you to anticipate temptation before it arrives, making your resistance far more effective. Awareness turns weakness into strategy and strategy into strength. As you persist in your struggle, the heart gradually becomes more disciplined. Thoughts that once felt overwhelming begin to lose their influence, and desires that once felt powerful begin to fade. This is not because the struggle disappears, but because you grow stronger through it. Just as a muscle becomes stronger with resistance, the heart becomes purer with every act of self-control. Over time, what once required great effort begins to feel natural, and your mind slowly shifts toward purity on its own. The frequent return to Allah that comes with this struggle softens your heart in beautiful ways. You begin to feel ashamed in a healthy, gentle manner, not out of guilt that crushes you, but out of love that motivates you. This type of humility brings you closer to Allah because it comes from sincerity, not fear. You start to notice that your prayers feel deeper, your worship feels more meaningful, and your connection to your faith becomes more personal. The very struggle that once frustrated you becomes the reason you grow spiritually. There is also a sense of inner peace that develops as you remain persistent. Even though the thoughts may come and go, your heart begins to feel more stable, more confident, and more focused. The noise inside your mind gradually quiets, and you start to feel moments of clarity that were once rare. This peace is a gift Allah grants to those who strive for purity, and it becomes one of the greatest signs that your efforts are being accepted, even if you still face challenges along the way. Through persistence, the journey of purification transforms your identity. You begin to see yourself as someone who values purity, seeks closeness to Allah, and refuses to surrender to temporary desires. This transformation is not sudden. It is built through every moment of resistance, every attempt to redirect your thoughts, and every sincere effort you make. And as this identity strengthens, it becomes easier to stay committed, because you start to see yourself as someone capable of rising above your desires.